When we're talking about worm, danger might not be the thing that you would associate it with. Well, perhaps you would think of parasitic worm, which can be dangerous in a lot of cases, of course. But besides that, at worst, it would probably just be disgusting for you, or maybe creepy for some people. Although I'm sure some people are cool with worms, or even think a worm is cool. However, one group of worms, which often raise the alarm for those who know, especially in USA, is the hammerhead worm. So, let me bring up the question. What exactly is hammerhead worm? Unlike the tongueworm that I talked about several weeks ago, hammerhead worm is an actual worm. To be precise, it's a flatworm. To be more specific, it's a planarian. Yes, the same group of worms with the famous model of reproduction by splitting and regenerating themselves. That one is called Dugesia, and that's a small aquatic worm. On the contrary, hammerhead worms are terrestrial and way bigger compared to Dugesia. Hammerhead worms are classified in the Geoplanidae family, which is generally known as land planarians. Initially, all hammerhead worms are classified in the genus Bipalium, which means double shovel or double spade, because their head resembles the head of a shovel, or arguably, two head of a shovel. I say it initially because later on, they were divided into multiple genera. In 1998, some species were reclassified into a new genus called Novibipalium. In 2001, another reclassification and another new genus, Humbertium. A year later, 2002, yet another reclassification and another new genus, Diversibipalium. This one is not exactly robust though, taxonomically speaking at least, because the genus served to assign species inquirendae and nomina dubia. Species inquirenda means a species that requires further investigation, while nomina dubia means a dubious scientific name, those with doubtful application. So yeah, Diversibipalium is basically just a placeholder for the ones we weren't sure of. This reclassification was based on the genital morphology, and for quite a while, those four are the quote-unquote recognized genera, and they were all classified in the Bipalinae subfamily. That was until 2023, when two new genera were discovered. This is based on molecular phylogenetics, which reclassified some specimens into those two new genera. These two are Umbotectum and Vermifiatum. The 2023 publication also revealed the possibility that there might even be more genera. We'll see in the future. Hammerhead worms, especially those in the genus Bipalium, are mainly known from Asia, especially South and Southeast Asia. However, they are so invasive that some of them are even more common on the other side of the world. For example, Bipalium pennsylvanicum are given that name because they were discovered in Pennsylvania, USA, and there's a lot of them there. In reality, they are not native there. Another example is the genus Vermifiatum, which means voyager worm, because they are described from specimens that were collected in Italy and France, but in reality, they are not native to that region either. Like I said, they are from Asia. So, just to emphasize the point, yes, they are a very successful invaders, which is why they can be found in most continents, except Antarctica that is. They simply cannot survive the Antarctic. More on their invasiveness later. Before that, let's talk about their morphology. But before that, hammerhead worm size can vary. I would say adults are typically around 5 to 10 centimeters long, but some are less than 2 centimeters long, while Bipalium cavense can even grow longer than 20 centimeters. As with other flatworms, their body is dorsoventrally flattened. In their case, their dorsal side is slightly convex, while their ventral side is basically flat. Their most noticeable trait, which gives them their name of course, is their semilunar head plate. The shape of their head could also be used as a diagnostic character to identify specific species, as they actually have various shapes and sizes. For example, this one is relatively roundish, while this one is wide and sharp, like a pendulum blade trap that you can find in many video games or movies. While it is very difficult to spot, they have tiny eye spots on the edge of their head. These eye spots can be used to detect light. They also have mechanoreceptors and chemoreceptors on the edge of their head. which they use by undulating their head plate like this image right here. Along their ventral side, from the base of their head, they have creeping sole, which is a highly ciliated region that they use to creep. Right on the middle, which is noted by asterisk symbol in this image, is their mouth. And yeah, they don't eat with their head, which might be weird to see, but that's just how it is. Oh, and it might be obvious by now since I already showed you several images of various species, but yeah, they also have different patterns, which can be used to identify species, to some extent that is. Some requires looking at more detail. Speaking of, I did say the reclassification into 4 different genera was based on the genital morphology, right? So, Bipalium have a generic and simple reproductive organ without accessory ducts or copulatory bursa. Novibipalium is quite similar to the Bipalium, but they have highly muscular male antrum wall and reduced penis papilla. Humbertium have ovovitelline ducts that turn dorsally before reaching the genital pore and having an anterodorsal entrance to the female organ. Meanwhile, Diversibipalium are those with not enough genital morphology information. And yeah, like I said, we simply don't know enough about them and we just put a placeholder name basically. If that is too complicated and confusing, then I would say don't worry about it, because it might even be obsolete soon enough. Like I said, we discovered 2 new genera from the existing specimens, and potentially even more, so a big shakeup could happen to the taxonomy. If so, that diagnostic character won't even matter because a new one will have to be assigned. Unless you are interested in doing research on their systematics, of course, then do keep in mind about that. Anyway, let's talk about their lifestyle. Hammerhead worms prefer humid habitat. They mostly creep on the ground, but they could also burrow when it gets too dry. Oh, I would like to clarify that dry does not necessarily mean hot. Extreme cold habitat is most of the time also dry. That's why they are known as polar desert. Anyway, they creep in a smooth way, which is why people might mistake them for slugs. Their creeping sole, which consists of a bunch of cilia, enables them to move like this. Hammerhead worms are predators. They mostly eat earthworms and mollusks. When subduing their prey, they stick to their prey with a sticky secretion. Not only that, they also secrete tetrodotoxin, which is typically found in tetraodontiform fishes such as pufferfish and porcupine fish, but also can be found in blue ring octopus and moon snail. If those names did not spark something in your head, then let me tell you. Tetrodotoxin are known to be a highly potent venom. Also, it is known to be produced by marine animals, which is quite interesting how hammerhead worms secrete them. Even though the tetrodotoxin secreted by hammerhead worms are not at a lethal dose for a human, it sure is lethal for their prey. So basically, they just stick to their prey, secrete their toxin, stick their mouth, secrete some digestive fluid, and just chill while their prey is slowly digested. Then they suck the juice through their mouth. Well, it's something, isn't it? Anyway, while planarians are known to reproduce asexually by splitting themselves, hammerhead worms mostly reproduce sexually. They are hermaphrodites, so any 2 individuals can mate basically. Still, they are also able to do sesquiparity. That is the scientific term for asexual reproduction by splitting, by the way, or usually written as reproduction by fission on school textbooks. And yeah, all of those makes them a really good invader. Let's talk about the specific. So, the reason why they can invade other regions in the first place is, most likely, through ornamental plant traits. They don't exactly stick to a plant, but hey, if you want to transport plants, you gotta bring some dirt. And that is how they stumble into other regions. Someday, they are just chilling on the dirt and debris, and got accidentally transported. The fact that they can reproduce asexually and also sexually with any 2 individuals enables them to proliferate easily. Okay, so you get the why and how. Now the question is, what exactly makes them dangerous? That is, the fact that they secrete tetrodotoxin. That basically makes them an apex predator, simply because nothing wants to eat them. Sure, it's not lethal for big animals, but it could cause irritation. Even humans can get irritation by touching them, you know. Imagine swallowing this thing. So yeah, they don't have natural predators, basically no biological control outside their natural habitat. Not only that, they can cause a massive decrease of earthworms and snails population. Snails might not be a big deal, but earthworm is. Earthworms enhance soil fertility. The lack of earthworm means reduced fertility for your soil. That means reduced crop production for you. And that's how hammerhead worms can be dangerous for human life. Well, aside from that, like I said earlier, you could get irritation if you make a contact with their secreted tetrodotoxin. You know, some people are curious enough to touch them after all. And yeah, that's hammerhead worm. What might be a cool and interesting looking worm is actually a threat in some regions. Like I've talked about throughout this video, the 2023 publication is a big step towards the taxonomic research on them. Who knows, maybe we'll discover many more species, or even genera, in the future. But for now, let's just learn what is known. And that's all for now. Oh, by the way, their toxicity varies between species, so some of them might be completely safe to touch. However, I would simply suggest not touching them at all. Just avoid touching wild animals in general, whatever it is. Anyway, enjoy your day.